Why are countries at war? Because this is simply the environment in which we're resonating and we're experimenting with a particular type of differentiation and a particular type of isolation away from source. So it's like, why are countries at war? Because we're experiencing indifference from a greater whole, and that indifference, we're building our unique ego with different factors and facets and mechanisms of the ego. And simultaneously there's like, there's a no ego, obviously, and then there's like a more flexible higher octave ego, or the higher octave ego could just be distorted in any way, right? And the nations themselves could have egos. So if a nation is crumbling, their ego is just in a certain level of lesser harmony, more distortion, and that's weighing them down to be their state of their fucking country that they're in, just the science behind it, So this is the state of this is the states of countries. Like, what's their state, energy state? What is the state of countries? It's because the 3D is an environment where it's entertaining and inviting all of these different, unique experimental elements. And from those experimental elements, we could work with our nature or not. And if we don't work with our nature, or the two different people's natures are different, then there's going to be an energetic kind of confliction, a war there, right? So within that energy conflict and that war, be it nation versus nation or individual versus individual, we're making it through this particular stage inside, different contexts of like the container, or the container of like whatever we're calling, the solar system, or whatever we're calling, the earth, or whatever we're calling, what's the thing encasing the movement, like what's the container for the movement, all these different types of movement, right? So within all these different movements, what's creating the cause of the movement? We haven't even, the collective intelligence hasn't even began to think of these original insights, so within all of these movements, we're quote unquote energetic slaves, end quote, to the movements of different planetary aspects and how they collide, that being quote unquote energetically greater than us, end quote, and we're energetic slaves to that causing mechanism of like something else is moving, some kind of treadmill is moving, and we as individual life forms are on that treadmill, and there's no choice to receive that these different energetic causes of what's making movement to begin with. And from that movement, that's the thing we have to learn to adapt to, how we are. And if we don't take consideration for others on how they do it, then that could be like a strange dishonoring within yourself and how you relate to the greater whole. Because simultaneously 3D is a hard extreme polarities of, there is a fair share of harmony in the 3D, and then there's fair share of destruction and chaos and disorder in the 3D. So that's why it's extreme in the 3D, because there is harmony in the 3D, obviously, but it's more shied away for whatever reason, because the collective intelligence, for whatever fucking reason, just the individual nations, they're leaning towards distortion being a different layer, and underneath distortion, quote unquote, is energetic evil, end quote, not good, not bad, but that which is the chaos that kind of we're in as a different type of movement from the Divine Mother. And then it's how, if we're out of balance from the Divine Mother's chaos, we could get thrown into some particular context of quote unquote distortion, right? So it's like, because it's like, why is there like, why is there all this fuck shit on the planet, type of shit? So within, like, you could ask yourself, like, why is all this like why is this happening type of shit, And within asking why is this happening, all the nations, they're not necessarily honoring the order process of how the quote unquote how do the orderly skies work. Because if they were to, then they would have fixed all of their shit. So we all have unique challenges based on how we came to be how we came to be. Did you choose to be born type of shit? Like, did you choose to be born? Maybe so, you know, maybe on a deep spiritual level, you could kind of prove that, you know, that you 7 vet 303, you know, everyone's reading license plates, okay? My bad. But and hopefully the wind isn't being too tenacious here. Outrageous. Look at that booty. Drop it to the flow all the way. Oh, under the underworld. Hella low. Yo, hella low, low. Hella lean. Yo, drop it to that underworld flow. Underworld, yo. I got my metronome with my metatone with the monitor. Yo, I got that firestorm. Young, ancient like dinosaurs. I'm the fire lord with the firestorm. Yo, I got no rival though, only when I look into that mirror, ho. Yo, and I never seen anything more clearer before. So the odds in the center is pointing to the throw in this unique transit, and we've been riding these moon and Scorpio energies. So we've been making it within the certain, because there's different contexts of the Admin Cadman body, you know, the feminine one and the masculine one. And I do a particular underground transmission detailing like how it's like a different, there's different like settings to the Admin Cadman body, like in a very detailed way, mind you, because obviously I could understand the comprehension skills of the listeners, you know. Like, what is he talking about? Well, it's a different presentation. So within the feminine Admin Cadman body, the moon is touching upon this Scorpio area, and how everything is coming from a collective yin level. There's a collective yang level, and then there's even more so a programmed keynote of a yang level within the Scorpio field, you know. But just generally, aside from a particular gate in Scorpio that highlights pure yang, there's always some type of other collective yang, and how, you know, the feminine is birthing something, and whatever she's birthing, all of us somehow, we're like kind of like the in-between movement of it, and we're creating something new from her, you know, from the Divine Mother. And from the Divine Mother, the moon, you know, within these last couple days, 2 days, 3 days, you know, in this area, we've been riding with the moon in Scorpio. So we've been feeling like, you know, within that place of the environment of the field of Scorpio, the moon is getting charged up. The moon is kind of resonating with charge there, and we're building with like we're building with we're just building with the moon in Scorpio, right? And within the moon being in Scorpio is like that's just an energy theme that's a different channel from how nations are at war, you know. So the nations at war, it's a different channel than the programs and the quote unquote software shit, end quote. Because the software shit, it's just a tool, you know. It's just a platform, and it's how we're using the platform and how we're using the tool, you know. And little does the tech field know, the fucking esoteric field was always there though, you know. And the tech field, within their respective critical intelligence, they're lacking that, you know. And now they could balance that, but they don't necessarily want to, you know, for whatever reason, or they do however they do. And they're more like, because obviously, like, you don't, like, we don't have to be distorted, like, save America, God, maybe, like, save America, God. That's the thing that's going on here. So moon and Scorpio, we've been riding with this energy, and as we're riding with this energy from the last video to, you know, even this morning to tomorrow and tonight, the moon and Scorpio energies, it's brought us, like, this is what shit is, you know. This is what shit, like, there yesterday, last night, it was in the gate 1, pure yang. So the moon and Scorpio were feeling like just kind of like some type of quote unquote climax, end quote. Nothing too like literal, but there's like nothing too literal within the climax part. But like when the moon is in Scorpio, there's some type of like mini climax, right? And from that mini climax, then we all get to our heights, then we settle to some shit, and now we have to figure out like how nature is just like causing this like this disorderly shit and this orderly shit, you know? Because now the moon is in Scorpio. Now it's in a new gate called breakthrough. So it's like having some type of epiphany within, like, if you experience like bliss and pleasure, wouldn't you want to try to fucking maintain that shit, you know? But that's the thing, the 3D reality is testing that in itself. So since it's testing that, and this is how I look, you know, I'm just embracing myself. And since it's testing that in itself, that's the whole quote unquote, like, that's the whole energy confliction of every planet, you know? That's the whole war of just like the indifferences, you know? Because not everyone's necessarily like intellectually about that. And if you're not intellectually about that, then you're resonating with some type of confusion and distortion, regardless of you know what things are, because there's a supposed science mechanics behind all of this, you know. And then, you know, the other predecessors say we deserve this shit. Yeah, like how, like, and I humbly, modestly just have to ask, like, and I probably asked this like, you know, millions of years ago or whatever, of just like how do we deserve this shit? And I guess somehow if I have an inquiry to life, then life will give me that answer, right? But it takes time within the process, and the process is like within the 3D, we're not recognizing the challenges of like how like there's different energy entities that are catering to not good, not bad, but the slow process of consolidation. And within those entities gearing towards and catering towards the slow process of consolidation, they could have distortion, you know? So it's up to God's highest intelligence to fucking obviously recognize the difference between distortion and not distortion, just energy that's doing its shit, you know? Because there's a difference between distortion and that which is quote unquote energetic chaos, end quote. So within the moon in Scorpio, we've really been like, we've really been like, you know, kind of like feeling into our rawness, you know, feeling into the even darkness, you know, feeling into the, let's see who we got. Try bouncing Froakie. There's Froakie. Pokemon card, bro.
What?
Pokemon card. Do you play Pokemon?
Pokemon?
Yeah.
Oh, come on.
Big box. Blue ginger. Blue ginger? Okay. He just...
Yeah, it's on the island of Lanai.
Nah, what island?
Lanai.
Oh, I'll see you there, man. Island of Lanai. So, I just did a card pool for this type of shit based on... I didn't pull the card. The fucking Matrix pulled the card for me, and that was Croaky. Try bouncing. Try twerk. I'm not saying to try like... I'm not saying to do anything, you know. But bouncing reminds me of like... Doesn't have to remind me of twerking. But, you know, if you want to twerk, you twerk, you know. You want to twerk it, you twerk all the way, babe. Anyways, I'm going to keep going in this straight path. So the moon in Scorpio, it's like we've been riding with these energies, and sometimes the moon in Scorpio energies, that shit could feel like, it could feel like some type of like forever, you know? So if it feels like some type of forever, you know, the ego doesn't like to surrender. That's the problem with the ego. It doesn't know when to surrender. It's out of its nature, you know? And the collective, you know, consciousness, just generally, it's out of its nature. So the collective consciousness being out of its nature, the platform being what it is, not good, not bad, and then different, you know, planetary entities causing that shit on a different level supposedly, and that's what we're working with. And that's the Scorpio Yang of last night, of like how we're all just like working with the moon being in all of the signs, and the moon being in all the signs, it transits all of your houses. So all of your houses, 1st through 12th house, they're always getting tested from the heart, you know? These are tests from the heart, you know, moon, heart, moon, you know, spiritual seat of the soul type of shit, from the human to the inner. So the moon, the test of the heart, it's playing out through all your houses, you know? Every area of your life is being tested out based on your heart, you know, and people could take advantage of that heart, you know. So so the moon in Scorpio is like, it could bring out like a lot of things, you know. Just random truths could come out, you know. Just like some deep ass shit generally could be just brought out, you know. So, and when I'm walking, it's kind of a, ooh, yeah, I'm not promoting anything, and that's the thing. It's like people like exaggerate things, you know. So we have to be careful, like what are our thoughts, and what are not my feelings, like, because obviously people could like unconsciously project, you know, and we have to be careful of just not of just like seeing people's exaggerations, you know, like based on where you're at. You don't have to project your exaggeration upon, okay, Chico, okay, I'm going over here. So you don't have to project your exaggerations upon someone else, you know, because if you do that, then like you're just kind of like throwing some type of, like, you know, some type of unnecessary sediment energetically upon someone else. But that shit happens all the time though, and for us to cleanse from that, regardless of like anything, original, open source, everything supposedly, because obviously no choice is no choice, right? No choice. Like people are just not like considerate, you know. Just not considerate. But if we are considerate, we don't have to like cause unnecessary. We don't have to cause unnecessary, like, you know, disgruntlements or like arguments or like just like all this, like, you know, all this like just all this like we could transform the bunk ass shit, you know. That's what I don't think people like the intelligence isn't necessarily there, you know, for people to particularly get that, you know. Like some people are just cool with bunk ass outdated shit. Okay, that's why vote for that. That your ignorance and confusion is accumulating to fucking let that be okay, you know. So, leader of authenticity, you know it. So aside from like, you know, just general fucking replication shit, like the energy principle is, it seems like it's lost, you know. It just seems like it's lost. People's ignorance and confusion are unconsciously voting for some outdated fucking shit to be okay, and the collective intelligence doesn't necessarily understand that. So I'm gonna wrap it up right there, because that was a pretty like, it was a pretty like structured point, you know. And yeah, thank you guys.